Hi everybody, welcome to our first vocabulary video of the year for AP World History. This is Mr. Cole. Watching this video will really help you prepare to understand the content for Unit 1 and also for our assessment, which will be on August 16th. On this video we're going to go over these 13 terms: Paleolithic era, egalitarianism, kinship, hunting and gathering, Neolithic era, agriculture, pastoralism, domesticate, specialized labor, social classes, gender roles, polytheism, and cultural diffusion. So our first word is Paleolithic era. Paleolithic means the Old Stone Age. It's by far the largest portion of human experience on Earth, which means if you add up all of the time human beings have spent on Earth, most of it has come during this era. The main characteristic of this time period was that humans were hunters and gatherers, which means they hunted wild animals and they gathered plants that were just growing naturally or in the wild for their food. They didn't grow their own food. And the dates for this are from 2.6 million years ago until 10,000 years ago. The next word is egalitarianism. Egalitarianism means that all people in a society are equal or treated equally in terms of social, economic, and political life. People during the Paleolithic era were mostly in egalitarian societies, which means they were all equals. The next word is kinship. Kinship means people who have a close relationship to each other by blood or marriage or some sort of family relationship. People during the Paleolithic era lived in groups based upon kinship. Our next term is hunting and gathering. And hunting and gathering was the way that people got their food during the Paleolithic era. And what hunting and gathering means is you get your food by hunting animals or from wild plants such as berries that you find growing. This means that people couldn't stay in one place. They had to move around to find animals or to find plants for them to eat. Before agriculture was invented, all human societies practiced hunting and gathering until about 10,000 years ago. Hunting and gathering is also called foraging. Next we have the Neolithic era. It's also known as the Neolithic Revolution or the Agricultural Revolution. The word Neolithic means New Stone Age. So Paleolithic was Old Stone Age. Neolithic means New Stone Age. And basically the Neolithic era was a series of different developments in different places when human beings began to grow their own food. They began the domestication of plants, which means they grew plants and they were farmers so that they could eat that food. And also they kept animals to eat, which is known as pastoralism. This is one of the most important and significant developments in human history. It's one of the most important things that has ever happened, and it led to the creation of cities because it meant that people could stay in one place because they were growing their food or raising food in the case of animals, and they could stay in one place, and they started to develop towns which later became larger cities. Again, this is the Neolithic Revolution, or the Neolithic era. And so connected to the Neolithic Revolution, or the Neolithic era, is this word agriculture, which was a big part of this era. And what this means is that people deliberately or intentionally are growing or cultivating food by planting crops and raising animals. The next word is pastoralism, and this was also part of the Neolithic era. It has to do with keeping and raising animals. So it's raising or herding animals for the purposes of food. We can see in this picture there's cattle and some goats that this particular boy is herding, and this could be used for food in his community. The next word is domesticate. Domesticate has two parts to it. The first one has to do with animals, and the other one has to do with plants. So number one, it's to tame an animal to keep as a pet. So if you have a dog or a cat in your house, that is a domesticated animal. Or you might be keeping that animal for food. If you have a cow and you're going to eat it, or a chicken and you're going to eat its eggs, that would be a domesticated animal for the purposes of food. And the second aspect of it is to grow or cultivate plants that you would later eat, such as corn or carrots. The next term we have is specialized labor. So, as a result of the Neolithic Revolution, meaning people began to grow their own food and raise animals for food, rather than having everybody spend all day long hunting for food or going around gathering food in the woods, some people could focus on other jobs like making tools or building houses, because you could have in a community some people growing food or taking care of the animals, and then other people could spend their time doing other jobs. Specialized labor means that people have jobs using specific skills that contribute to the larger community or society. You can see in this picture these little cartoon characters represent different jobs that people have. Not everyone has to just make the food all day long. People can be doctors or lawyers or scientists. Okay, the next word we have is social classes. And social classes means people are grouped in a society based upon status, which means wealth or how much money they have, how much people respect them, or how much fame or prestige they have, or maybe even who their parents are. It usually has to do with economic success, meaning making money, and we'll hear people say things like upper class, middle class, working class, or lower class. Those are all social classes in a society. The next word we have is gender roles. And what gender roles are patterns of behavior and expectations in a given culture for men and for women. So gender refers to male or female. For example, it might be what jobs women have, what different kinds of clothes men wear compared to women, how men are supposed to act or how women are supposed to act. And this can be different in different cultures, and it might change over time. As people began to farm and raise animals, this created some different gender roles, as in some societies men would do certain jobs and women would do others. The next word we have is polytheism. Polytheism. This is the belief in many gods. So some religions believe in just one God. That's monotheism. Other religions actually have several different gods, and that's polytheism. Our final word is cultural diffusion. Cultural diffusion. And this basically means transmitting or sending or passing along ideas or products or things from one culture to another. So in the upper left-hand corner here, we have an example of tea. Tea cultivation or tea begins in China, and then someone named Marco Polo travels from Europe to China, and then he goes back to Europe and brings tea with him, and all of a sudden tea becomes a very popular drink back in Europe. This is cultural diffusion. because it's taking ideas or things from one part of the world to another. In the bottom right corner, we have a more modern example, which is McDonald's. McDonald's is a restaurant that started in the United States, but if you go to many other countries around the world, you will also find McDonald's, and that's a more modern example of cultural diffusion. So the idea for a restaurant like McDonald's or the type of food that they serve has been spread around the world. And in the bottom left-hand corner here, we have a map which shows just some different routes that human beings may have taken in order to spread ideas, ways of life, for instance, farming strategies. Another example might be the use of horses, horses being sent from one part of the world to another. These are all examples of cultural diffusion, which is a very important aspect not only of this first unit in world history, but topics we'll cover throughout the year. And that has been our first vocabulary video of the year. Please feel free to watch this again, and please study this video and take good notes and be prepared for our assessment on August 16th, and ask your teachers if you have any questions. Thanks a lot.